Hey everyone, this is Matt.
This is Greg, and this is Record Mashup. Today we got two songs for you. We have Right Said Fred with I'm Too Sexy. And then for Matt's song, what do you have for us?
We're going to be doing Spirit in the Sky by Norman Greenbaum. So this week's episode's theme is one-hit wonders.
Yep,
Artists
and
that
these
did.
one-hit wonders have nothing to do with each other other than really they're kind of a one-hit wonder. So
They are
uh,
catchy songs though.
they are catchy, and that's why they were hits.
That's right.
So,
So,
so getting
and
into
we'll
it, Matt, did you want to go first?
sure, yeah. Before we get started, let's just remind our listeners if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also find us on Facebook or Twitter at Record Mashup. Please give us a like or a follow. We try to stay engaged with our listeners as best we can, and social media is one of the greatest ways that we can do that. So, yeah, Greg, do you want to dive into "I'm Too Sexy"?
Sure. So getting into it, it is a song by Right Said Fred. It's a London-based band from the brothers Fred and Richard Fairbrass. If you look at their history, they actually have quite a few albums and songs actually, but their first album and their first single, "I'm Too Sexy," were their number one hits. Charted in multiple countries, platinum and gold, and was very successful and was the first song since the Beatles to have their debut song top the charts in the US, actually. So did bring a lot of success for them.
The first one since the Beatles. Wow, I didn't realize that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so there's a decent little gap there. This song came out in 1991 with their album actually coming out in 1992.
Yeah, that's a
So
pretty. I
a
mean,
little
you
bit
would think that
dated.
they're. Yeah, you'd think they're. Well, but even so, '91. I mean, the Beatles were what, '60s.
Yeah,
So you would think that there would have been someone. I mean, when did the Rolling Stones come out over?
it was the let me find it again. So it was the first debut single that
Okay,
topped the uh, the U.S. charts.
gotcha.
Not
Okay,
necessarily the first single to have done it. So,
that makes sense. Okay, I'm with you.
yep. Okay, so getting into it, just a little bit of background is the Fairbrass brothers were actually running a gym when they kind of came out with this song. So they saw that there's a lot of narcissism and posing going on, and they started just kind of make a joke out of it, singing that I'm too sexy for my shirt and taking off the shirt and then recording it as a song basically and basing that as their main theme for the song. Going into it, he's too sexy for a lot of things. So just starting it off with he's too sexy for his love, and that love's gonna leave him, and then getting into the famous line, "I'm too sexy for my shirt, so sexy it hurts." Just kind of a ridiculous song in general. Kind
It's
of
extremely.
catchy. Definitely embodies early '90s music, I would say.
Yeah,
Uh, Going into that, and then some of the inspiration for some of these things is later on in the song. He says, "I'm a model, you know what I mean." So one of the brothers was actually dating a model at the time, and this was big into when the supermodel era was starting. So he's kind of commenting on that, just kind of satirically, like kind of joking around about it. So going further into it, he's just saying other things that he's too sexy for, just joking around, just kind of making it a lighter impression of things. So saying that he's too good for his car, basically, and it's like how awesome he is. Just going back to that theme of when they were just joking around about being in the gym and owning that gym,
yeah.
essentially.
It's it.
It's a
Greg,
very
do you have
basic
any?
song. There's not too much to it.
It's he's just too sexy for the song. I mean, what that's the
Yeah, I
the
mean,
final too
verse
sexy.
3 even goes into "I'm too sexy for my cat."
But Greg, the real question is, are you too sexy for your cat?
I don't know. My wife pays attention to my cats a lot more than I do, but they're also both girl cats, so like I'm not gonna compare my sexiness to my girl cat.
Happy belated birthday, by the way, for our listeners
Oh,
that don't
thank you,
know.
thank you.
Yeah, Greg had a major milestone birthday.
Yeah, just hit the big 3-0.
So
So I'm too sexy for birthdays. So
yeah,
I
there are
actually got some pretty good presents and everything from it too.
nice. That's awesome. There are a couple of unique kind of side stories I think to this song. I don't know if you came across any of those in doing the research. Um,
Yeah, it was basically the sorry, the uh, basis to the song from coming from the gym experience, just joking around that and the whole model thing, and then the rest of it just kind of flows together to be a catchy song. Talking about being too sexy for Milan, and New York and Japan.
you mean
Too sexy
Milan?
for your party and disco dancing, because disco dancing was a thing of the past at that point.
Yep.
Did you
One of
have
the
any
there's a
other inputs, Matt?
Yeah, there's apparently the guitar riff that is in the song, and I can't remember where exactly it is in the song, but it was based off of Jimi Hendrix's song
Yep,
Third
Third
Stone
Stone
from
from the
the
Sun.
Yeah, and I don't actually know what the final outcome was. I probably should have looked that up. But apparently Jimi Hendrix's estate threatened legal action against the band
I
for
did
their
not see that actually.
Yeah, I really should have looked up. I'm sure one of our listeners will know and they'll tell us what happened. But so I'm not really sure what the outcome was, but in any event, kind of an interesting side story, if you will.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect them to use Jimi Hendrix, I feel, for this song and then get sued for it.
Yeah, well, the song was apparently originally recorded as an indie rock song.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until a radio plugger, which is, basically a more or less a DJ,
Hmm.
suggested that they cut it as a dance track. And that's the version we all now know and dare I say love. Uh, but in any event, I think you said you already said it hit number one in the U.S. It hit number one in 5 other countries as well. So it was a pretty popular song in its day.
Hmm. Yeah, and it somehow only peaked to number 2 on UK, but
Yeah,
um, even though they are from the UK, I figured it would have been a little bit more successful there.
yeah.
It was more
You
of a
would,
hit in the United States. But
yep,
number 2 is still pretty good. And I'm not knocking number 2.
yep. But you know what's funny? I found there was a Blender, which I don't even know what that is. I've never heard of it, but they listed it as number 49 on their list of 50 worst songs. So I thought
I
that was kind
mean,
of funny.
I guess it really depends what you're saying. What is like a worst song? Is it something
Yeah.
that's like a one-hit wonder? Is that considered a worst song? Or like, I mean, it's kind of a catchy song. So if it's
Yeah.
catchy, I wouldn't really say that's top 50 worst songs. I feel like there's 50 other songs I could probably put before this one. I'm not saying
Yeah, I
it's a
would.
great song or a good song at all. I just would call it the top 50 worst.
Yep. Well, and the other thing that I found, kind of side story, if you will, apparently Taylor Swift's "Look What You Made Me Do," the chorus from her song has been credited as being inspired from "I'm Too Sexy."
Oh, that makes me upset. I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan.
No, you don't like T Swift?
No, no, I'm probably like one of the few people in the world that doesn't, but nope, not a big fan.
She just had a new album that was released a week ago or so. At least from the time we're
Recently,
recording this.
yeah. So it's pretty recent from what she released.
Yep. But aside from that, I guess the only other thing really to talk about, Greg, is why they were a one-hit wonder.
So going into it, I would consider it a one-hit wonder. I've never heard any of these other songs that they have, but they do have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They do have 8 albums actually.
Wow.
The first one was the one that charted because it had the "I'm Too Sexy" song on it, and that had another song that was actually number 3 in the UK. It was a little bit lower in the US, 76, but number 2 in Germany and a couple higher points in other places, and then it kind of fell off from there.
Yeah.
So I guess I wouldn't necessarily say they're a one-hit wonder depending on where you live, but in the United States, closer to that one-hit wonder. Since the only 2 songs that ever charted from them were "I'm Too Sexy" and their second single "Don't Talk Just Kiss," but that was rated 76. So
Yeah.
I threw it
I
in
I
one-hit
read an
wonder category.
interesting article, and I don't know if it's coming from an interview of one of the Fairbass brothers or if it was someone's analysis. I don't recall, but they were making, or at least this article was making the case that they took on this persona that they presented in this song because it was so big, that because the song was kind of so ridiculous. I mean, yes, it was a hit, but it was not, let's be real, it was a ridiculous song. That once they got past that initial song, that no one could see the band seriously, which is partially why they struggled at that point to ever have another major hit.
Yeah, I can see how that definitely plays into it. Their persona, how they're marketed. They're just marketed then as like a joke
Yeah.
band. But I think anyone can really get out of that slump. And if you're a Right Said Fred fan that's out there and you love their music, good on you.
Yeah. They still tour too, or at least perform. I don't know if they're on tour,
Yeah,
but I saw some pretty recent live performances on YouTube.
really.
Yeah.
He
It's
dug
funny.
really deep into them to, to really see how they're doing.
Yeah. It's funny. I don't know why. When I'm on YouTube, and I'm listening to music, I much prefer to listen to or watch live performances as opposed to just listen to the recording version.
I watch a lot of music videos when I'm on YouTube. So even
Yeah.
if it's not like a live band performance, I still watch a lot of like the music videos, the songs, and things like that.
Sure.
Um,
Yep. Well, you want
one
to talk a
one
little bit
other,
about? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
there was one more note that I'd like to throw in here to your comment about being one of the top 50 worst songs.
Yeah.
In 2011, it was rated number 2 on VH1's 40 Greatest One-Hit Wonders of the 90s.
Okay. Number 2. That's pretty. I would not have
And it was
listed this as the number
voted
2.
in 2007, it was voted number 80 as of the 100 greatest songs of the 90s. So kind of goes the opposite of that top 50 worst songs.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows how these ratings work? I feel like
Very
if it's
subjective.
not, yeah, I feel like if it's not like Billboard or Rolling Stone or something. I mean, heck, we could come up with our own list, Greg.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we should do that for one of these. Just
That would be fun.
top worst, top best.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think in the comments, listeners.
Yeah. Or email us and let us know what you think. We want to
Yeah.
hear.
Recordmashup@gmail.com. Love to hear what your thoughts are. All right.
Anyways, you want to get into your song then? Has a little bit
Yeah,
more depth to it than mine.
sure. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Spirit in the Sky. So this was a song that was written by Norman Greenbaum. It was actually, it had 2 releases. It was released in December of 1969 in the UK, and then released in January of 1970 in the US. Was not released on an album or anything. It was just a single that was released. But there's a pretty interesting story, Greg. I don't know if you saw this, about how the song was written. So Greenbaum was living in San Francisco at the time. And like anybody that's a writer, whether you're a songwriter or a creative writer that writes novels, whatever, everybody that's a writer collects various bits and pieces from experiences in their lives. He had came across a greeting card of all things that had some American Indians sitting around a fire with the word spirit in the sky written on the card. So that's where he got the idea for the name. And then one evening he's watching an episode of the Porter Wagner show. For those that don't know, Porter Wagner was a country star way back in the day, had his own television show. It's really where Dolly Parton got her start to her career. So anyway, so he's watching the Porter Wagner show, and Porter starts singing this song about a preacher, and just there was something that clicked in Greenbaum's mind, and he said, I'm going to write a song about a preacher. And the word spirit in the sky from that greeting card he saw kind of popped into his head, and supposedly he wrote the lyrics to the song within 15 minutes, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty quick to write a song.
Yeah, no kidding. But he did say that it took him quite a while, several weeks or months to come up with a tune to the song. But nonetheless, once he got it, it's got a pretty unique sound to it. It's a huge hit. Even to this day, it's one of the most played songs, which is pretty remarkable. But the song itself is fairly straightforward. He's talking about when he dies and they lay him to rest, that he's going to go up to the spirit in the sky, which obviously he's referring to going to heaven, and how he's got to be friends with Jesus so that he can get into heaven or go to become a spirit in the sky.
Which I find funny or kind of ironic since he's Jewish.
Yes. Yes, he is Jewish, although he does say he no longer practices, but and that's why it's actually one of the later lines. It became a little bit controversial among Christians. He says later that he's never been a sinner and he's never sinned. Well, that's controversial because if anywhere listening Christians, that most Christians believe that everyone is actually born a sinner. And of course, everyone's going to sin in their lives. So
yeah,
the fact that he's saying he's never been a sinner and he's never sinned. But what's interesting is he's talked about this line and he just openly acknowledges, look, I wasn't a Christian. I'm not a Christian. I didn't know anything about Christianity when I wrote the song. And he just says it was a mistake. He wrote the words that came to him, and that was that. And so,
yeah. And I'm looking at genius.com. If for any of you who haven't ever been there, it's a website that where users can just go and put their opinions on what lyrics meant for a song. Got this one user who said it may also refer to the belief regarding the ultimate sacrifice that was made. So having a friend in Jesus means that your sins are going to be removed, and therefore you're not going to be a sinner. So that's someone else's take on it too.
Yeah, interesting. It's certainly I think that's certainly a more a more optimistic take, I guess, on the
Yeah.
lyrics.
Less controversial.
Yes, I actually kind of like that analogy, or not analogy, but that interpretation a little better, I think.
I really just like seeing anyone else's interpretations of music in general, and that's kind of why I like doing this, just hearing your opinion on it, and then when we get viewers who will comment or send in emails, we can get their opinion on it. So shoot us your opinions also.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree, Greg. It's kind of fun to talk about these things too, and it's been fun to talk with friends and family members that have listened to our episode, and they say, you're crazy, I've never thought of it that way, or but it's fun. I think it's good, and you know, yeah, that's a really interesting interpretation on that lyric that I did not see. But I really like this song. It's been it it's been in over, I don't know if you saw this, Greg. It's been in over 30 commercials, in over 60 movies since 1987.
Hmm.
So pre 1987, it wasn't anything. It had sure, it was a hit when it was released. It hit number 3 in the US and hit number 1 in 5 other countries, including Australia, Canada, Germany, Ireland, and the UK. But it never hit number 1 in the US. But then in 1986, I believe it was, there was a second band that recorded the song, Doctor and the Medics, and their version hit number 1 in the UK, which kind of started this resurgence of the song. And that's when it started getting picked up in all these commercials and movies, including Apollo 13, Guardians of the Galaxy, and Ocean's 11. So it's been in some pretty big movies. Apollo 13, I think, is probably the one that I recall the most. There's that scene where they're in the lunar module. If you've seen the movie,
Yeah.
you'll know what I'm talking about. But they've got the little radio that's kind of floating in space, and that's the song that's playing. So very just that scene is stuck in my mind. But
Yeah, and on the lower end of that, there's a quote from him talking about the song, and he's saying that he got letters from funeral directors telling him that's the second most requested song
I
to play
saw
at
that.
funerals.
Yep. Yep. And it's also played in apparently it's sung in many churches these days. So clearly he's kind of, been able to get past that controversial line, and it's doesn't seem to be holding him back
Yeah,
from a religious perspective. So pretty
just
cool in
depends
that
on how
regard.
you interpret it.
Yep. Exactly. So yeah, so I guess the only other thing really with this song is obviously it was a one-hit wonder. Greenbaum did release the song, and he tried to release a few other songs after he recorded this one, but nothing that really took off or really kind of had any substance to it. Nothing that really charted beyond. I think he did have one song that charted at number 44 or something, or 46. I can't remember,
Mhm.
but nothing too major. Nothing that really made a dent, so to speak. And it was actually before 1987 when Doctor and the Medics re-recorded it. He had become a cook in California. He started working at a burger shop, worked his way up to a sous chef in a restaurant. But since 1987, he's obviously with the song's resurgence, and he does still own half the publishing rights to the song. So he's been able to have a little bit of a payday on the song since then, and
Yeah,
has done okay for himself. But it's it's a good song. I like it.
yeah, I enjoy it. I had a lot of time playing it on Rock Band.
Yeah.
Pretty sure
Yep.
that's the game it was on. It was either Rock Band or Guitar Hero, forget which one. But
I think
had a
I think
lot of
Rock
fun
Band.
playing that song. It's really fun to play on that. I can't really play guitar, so I resort to video games because I like those.
It's okay. I got the Beatles Rock Band. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Not a
Yeah, I
lot of
think we
similarities in these
covered
songs,
everything.
Greg.
Yeah, there's zero similarities.
Yeah.
Right said Fred was too sexy for Norman Greenbaum at the time. You
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
it's my terrible humor. I'm sorry, guys. If you guys
Yeah.
want to stop listening to us now for that terrible joke, go
I
ahead.
think we just lost half our listener base.
Half of our 10 viewers.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Hey, we're growing.
Um,
We're growing. Tell your friends
yeah.
about this, folks.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much more to say about the songs. We just kind of wanted to keep it a lighthearted week based on the last episode we had that was a little bit more heavy. So we figured we'd take something a little bit lighter so you can outweigh that and not just have depressing week after depressing week.
Well, hey, Greg. So we got that lightheartedness now. So next week we can kind of float up into the sky. You
Yeah.
wanna not Do you want to talk a little bit about what we're gonna talk about next week? What's our theme?
Yeah, so our theme is going to be airplanes. So the song I have is Airplanes by B.O.B., also known as Bobby Ray. He's a rapper. Well, I'm going to be focusing on Airplanes Part 1, so it's just going to be his. I know a lot of people have heard the other version of it that has Eminem in it, but I just wanted to focus on B.O.B. himself, not have Eminem overshadowing him.
No, that
So
sounds
that's
good.
my song.
And then I'm gonna take on the Steve Miller Band's Jet Airliner, which is a good song. And part of the reason if we can hit our target release date, which would be August 19th, that will be National Aviation Day, which is celebrating aviation and the history of aviation. So we thought talking about planes and songs about planes would be an appropriate fit. So
Definitely. Yeah.
great.
So if you haven't already checked us out, you can check us out on Facebook under Record Mashup. We also have a Twitter, and you can catch us on YouTube as well. And any podcast website or anything that has podcasts on it. So Apple, Google Play, Castbox. Check us out on there. Let us know what you think. Drop us a comment on any of those pages or send us an email at recordmashup@gmail.com. You can catch it on the top or bottom banner for what we're offering.
Yeah. And with that, we'll see you next time.
All right,
Thanks,
take care.
everybody.